Welcome to Fired Up California. I'm William del Pilar, your conservative Latino, and there's no political battlefield I will not step onto. Well, this past week, 6 leading candidates for California governor faced off in the first major televised debate, April 22nd, 2026, at K-Rom 4 studio in San Francisco, weeks before the June 2nd primary. The 90-minute next star debate put 4 Democrats, Tom Steyer, the billionaire, Xavier Becerra, or Javier Becerra, or Professor X as I call him, Katie, get out of my bleeping shop, Porter, and Matt, nobody's ever heard of me, Mahan. So to be proper, Tom Steyer, Javier Becerra, Katie Porter, and Matt Mahan. They went up against 2 Republicans, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. That is Sheriff Chad Bianco and former Fox News host Steve Hilton. They're all fighting for survival in California's jungle primary. In this system, every candidate is on one ballot, and only the top 2 vote getters advance to November, no matter the party. So every moment on that stage matters. The race was already volatile. Then Eric Swalwell abruptly exited amid sexual misconduct allegations. They're saying allegations, but everyone involved says it's pretty much true. But anyway, it's blown a hole in the Democratic field and it's reshaping the polls heading into the debate. Tonight, we're going to give you some short, sharp, and a little dangerous commentary. And that's the point of this show. Never to play it straight, but to bring you the hard, ugly truth. So let's fire it up. In California, the real battle starts before the general election even gets here. And this debate was the first real test. And with that, let's bring on the panel. We'll start with the beautiful Miss Annette Ross. And then the G-Man. A little role reversal here. We did a previous podcast, everybody, and G was on the bottom and Annette was on top. But G was on the bottom more like Cole, the White House correspondent's dinner shooter was. As Big Mama's Secret Service agent, the G-Man told us, apprehended him, the one who was ridiculed at Butler, Pennsylvania. I have got to research that out. I had no clue, G, that was the case. Redemption.
It was
All
based
right.
on a video that I saw, so I could have
All
been
right.
wrong.
So the jungle primary, guys, and why it matters. So California's top 2 primary means the race is less about winning a party's base and more about surviving a crowded field. Most of the time, it's Republicans in a blue state. So that's why, literally, since the jungle primary became law, we've never seen 2 Republicans in governor's race or senator's race. So this is a different flavor we are seeing. And it is the Democrats who are worried about surviving a crowded field. So that's creating the possibility that Republicans could benefit if Democrats split too many ways. So, and that system just got even more volatile with Eric Swalwell exiting or being moved out of the picture. So I want to briefly talk about that. We're going to have a podcast where one of the topics we're going to do a deep dive on Eric Swalwell, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a deep dive because there's so many factors there. But for the governor's race, his exit changed the shape of the race because he was the most visible and most well-known contender. Most people, here's an ugly truth, when races start out, it's the name recognition that is usually at the top of the polls. And Swalwell was leading this race. Annette, were you aware Swalwell had 17% of the vote? Hilton 13%, Steyer 11%, Bianco 11%, and G's favorite politician, Katie Porter, he just loves a tough, rough woman at 8%, and 25% were undecided. So who is the next man up for the Democrats? Just your initial thoughts. Gee.
That's a tough one. After that whole debate, I didn't really see anybody stepping up, but I think maybe that mayor from San Jose, remind me his name.
Matt,
Oh my God. That just
Matt,
says it all about this debate. The mayor for Friends, what's his name? Matt, yeah, correct, Annette. Matt Mahan.
Yeah, and it's only because he actually said, "I will, suspend the gas tax." He first blamed the high gas prices on Trump, but then admitted, "Yeah, I'll suspend the gas tax," which actually, when we see that it drops by $1 a gallon just because of that gas tax, I think Californians will be like, "Wait a minute. Something doesn't jive here." So, I think that's why he stands a shot at being the front runner. But again, like, yeah, it was a pretty ho-hum debate in my mind.
Annette, did any your initial thoughts
Matt.
and who is the next Democrat up?
I loved it when he graded the governor and then he said, Californians deserve better. I'm like, didn't he just give him a good grade? And then he said they deserve better? I don't know. I don't know if he realized that he said that. Um, it was a very civil debate and on the fringe of boring with maybe just like a few interesting moments. I don't think it's gonna be it it it, it has to be by default, it has to be Matt. I always think of him, that mayor, of San Jose. I thought it was interesting when he was talking about how he's tackled the homelessness problem and the affordability problem. And then Steve Hilton said it was worse in San Jose than ever. So I'm like, no, so I'm like, so what's the real truth here? I literally have no idea. I'm just listening to two politicians and I don't know who to believe. But he's backed by the tech people, it seems. He seems to be one of those kinds of guys who's just soft-spoken, easygoing, somewhat likable. Actually, Porter for me had the biggest surprise of the night when she said that she didn't want to be focused on transgender. That no, she didn't say this. She said she did not. She thought that parents should know about their kids. There should be parental rights for regarding things with children, decisions with children. And I was like, very surprised she said that. I like that she said that. It was like the one thing that a Democrat said on the stage, and I was like, I like that she said that. Okay, I guess that's like in terms of them, they were
Okay,
sort
okay,
of
okay,
like,
okay. Okay, but answer the question. Who is in your
yeah,
so the G-man defaulted and said the guy, what's his name again? So who do
Matt
you say
Mayer,
is the person?
Matt the
No,
Mayor,
Matt Mahan. So Matt Mahan.
no, Matt Mayer. I know who it is.
You
That's what.
guys are terrible.
That's how I remembered him in my head that night. Matt the
All
Mayor.
right, so my take is Javier Becerra should have stepped up. The best name recognition, the ability to probably raise the most money, and he was as boring comes. A brown man becoming vanilla. Who would have thunk it? Then Matt Mahan actually was probably the most moderate out of all of them, but he had his own flubs, giving him Gavin
Did.
Newsom a good grade and saying we must do better, which theoretically is how it should go. But you don't give a man a B or B minus with the state. I mean, what I'm saying is that's the giveaway to y'all are fools, and
Right.
everybody sees it except for the sycophants.
Oh, using your word again. Your favorite word.
That's why I chuckled. So Javier Becerra should have dominated it. Matt Mahan, he just doesn't have the gravitas. But he had looked the most moderate. Katie Porter, I thought was next episode, CNN Redemption. She actually carried herself well in contrast to what her reputation shows. But she gave some lopsided answers. As a professor, I'd give him a B. And I'm thinking, that's why we suck at education.
Yeah.
That's our education system sucks. And Tom Steyer, well, you can give more, Mr. Billionaire. I shouldn't have to give more. But yeah, in every commercial you give, you say that we need to tax more. So he's self-destructed. He's got $100 million, and before Swalwell got out, he only had 11%. He's up to 13% right now. He's one of the two leaders, but he spent over 100 million so far, and the guy can't. He's his own worst enemy. So out of that, nobody stepped up, but I will say this: Katie Porter gave herself a little redemption. Matt Mahan, or is it Mahan? I can't remember. Matt Mahan kind of stepped up and kind of introduced himself to Californians. They needed this debate. Javier Becerra was the biggest disappointment. Tom Steyer, he's just Tom Steyer. He's a klutz, politically speaking. And if he didn't have, if you look at there's a chart I just saw today that showed all their money they've been given. And Tom Steyer, one donor, $100.9 million. I'm like,
I will say, Tom Steyer's hip. He's hip.
oh,
Because
the
did you
tennis
see his
shoes.
sneakers on stage?
Yes, I saw his shoes too. I noticed them.
He's trying to be a millennial or something. What,
Exactly.
65-year-old
You know,
millennial?
but hold on. Let's be honest. He can pull it off. Steve Hilton cannot. I'm like, bro, you're this bald, Beavis and Butthead looking type character. You can't pull it off. Tom Steyer, I give him some credit. He can pull off the sneakers, even though I just think for anybody, start dressing your age. It's like Grandma Groper, Megyn Kelly. You don't have to wear a dress that looks like you're going to the prom to do your show. I mean, you're 55 years old, Grandma, even though
Well,
you're a
yeah,
beautiful
but
woman.
okay, but okay. If you look back at Archie Bunker, when they started that show, remember, I forget her name, the wife's name, but
Edith.
they Edith.
Archie.
When they were in their I remember thinking these people are old. They were in their mid 40s.
I know. I know.
So, and it's because she dressed the grandma thing, right? And then it's like, okay, well, you look like a grandma, right? So, yeah. So I don't go after people for. I mean, I wear like graphic T-shirts, and I'm 53 almost, so I don't go after people for what they want to wear. Now, if you're going to wear like
Yeah,
midriffs,
you just did with Tom Steyer.
no, I said he's hip. But I just don't know that
distinctly.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that was sarcastic because he's running for governor. Now,
And
if
that's all
Axl
I was
Rose,
saying is there comes a point when you can pull it off and not pull it off. And
no,
my
what I'm
point
saying is,
as
if
beautiful as
Axl
Megyn
Rose,
Kelly is, she can't pull it off.
Axl Rose is 60 some odd years old, and if he was running for California governor, I would expect him to wear sneakers.
Bro,
I just don't expect a billionaire to wear sneakers. That's the difference. And
Axl Rose looks 75. Have you seen him? The guy hasn't stopped drinking. It's a godsend that his liver is still alive.
I know. He looks like
Rose,
he looks like a Axl Rose looks like a grandma.
Yeah.
All right, just making sure you're hip, Annette.
I got it. That's my
All right,
era.
all right, all right. So with the field reshuffled, the real question becomes whether anyone is actually talking about California's biggest failures. You can forget the polished talking points. The real story came out when the candidates had to grade Gavin Newsom and answer for their own records. And here's what they actually said. Some of the key moments was the grading of Gavin Newsom. When asked to grade Gavin Newsom's performance on homelessness, Katie Porter said, I'm a notoriously tough grader, but I would probably give him a B on homelessness, unquote. Adding, she gives him, quote, a lot of credit for calling attention to the problem, unquote. Before we go on, I don't want to we could spend an hour and a half here on the comments. Just real briefly, when you heard that, we'll start with G. When you heard that, G, what went through your mind?
Totally out of touch. I mean, I'll just keep it at that. I think you got to balance not criticizing. I don't understand why Gavin Newsom is wildly popular with the Democrat Party here, but you've got to balance not criticizing a very wildly popular governor with the reality of things. So that's what I thought. It's like, okay, they're just towing the party line, and except for the true believers, I just don't see how anyone goes, yeah, you're right.
And so, Annette, what did you think when you heard that line? A B. This state right now we're living in is a B. I'm sorry, homelessness.
Well, right, for that issue, I thought it was actually a really stupid question because that's a setup. What can they really do? That's the governor. They in some ways, they might even need his help. So what they can't really answer that question honestly. So it's like, what a terrible question. How can any of them answer it honestly? The only ones who can are the ones who are Republicans. The Democrats really can't. I mean, they
I don't.
sort of
Yeah,
they play to their own
I don't think it was a terrible question. You are correct in your interpretation, but it's a great question. What do you grade him? 24 billion. In fact, I would have phrased it with what grade would you give Governor Gavin Newsom on 24 million? Now, we need to preface that with 24 billion have come and gone, and the voter fraud investigations are showing it's massively out of control. Knowing all of this, Miss Porter, what would you grade him? You put him in a box, and the reason it's not their job to become part of their debate, it's their job to ask the questions we want answers to. And this showed any moderate out there who's struggling. Oh, they're just towing the damn party line. They're just
well,
towing the party line. They don't care about us. They care more about not upsetting their party. Now, my thought process on this, when I heard I'm a notoriously tough, I heard tough. And I thought of the mashed potatoes or potatoes and hot water being thrown at her husband. I swear to God, that's what I thought. And then when she said, give him a B, again, I'm repeating myself, but I'm like, well, that's what's wrong with our education system, because that's a clear F or E, depending what school system. All right.
But you remember Steve Hilton turned to her, right?
yeah.
Remember what he said? Like, my God, like I'd love to be in your class if I get a B for being that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, okay, we're digressing here, but we got to make this point. Then she goes, well, Steve, if you'd taken my class or course, you'd know that most homeless people are working and have jobs.
Oh,
Oh my God.
not
That was like the biggest lie ever. Because there are some people who are homeless and work, but it's a
she
small
said most. She said right, right.
it's a small sliver. Yeah, so I don't see. That's what I'm talking about. She didn't come across as this mean, angry shrew, but she came across as, frankly, a dumbass and towing the party line in that sense. But it was still a win for her because she didn't come across as a woman who threw hot water and potatoes at her husband's head. So every Democrat on stage gave Newsom passing grades on homelessness. Porter and Mahan gave him a B, Steyer a B minus, and Becerra even gave him an A for effort. You got an A for effort, little Johnny. A for effort. Yeah,
Participation trophy for Gavin Newsom.
exactly. And cleaning some of the streets. Now, Tom Steyer on taxes and his own bill. A clip that went viral after the debate shows Steyer rejecting the idea that simply raising his own taxes was the answer on inequality or affordability. He argued, quote, my tax bill is not the answer, unquote, and tried to pivot to broader structural reforms. Now, critics seize on this as two-faced. I am one of those critics, noting Steyer's past offshore holdings and Cayman Islands investments while he campaigns on taxing the rich and cracking down on corporate abuse. He has said, we billionaires need to be taxed more, but when confronted with it, no, senor, no raise my taxes. Annette, when you heard him say that, what went through your mind?
Well, I didn't really know much about him until I watched that debate, and I
Nobody
thought
did.
it yeah, I didn't know much about it. Actually, then what I did is I went and read up about him, he went to school and had the fund and anyway, smart guy, very intelligent guy, but I thought he was, what is the word? He's completely insincere. He was
Yes,
completely insincere, and so then if I was a Democrat, he lost my vote right there. If I had been considering him.
right, right. Okay, so G, I hope you took the time to look away from his sneakers and heard what he said about that. What were your
Very white.
No, well, I'm going to take a
thoughts?
different angle on this. They were very white sneakers. Um, so the reporter or the person who asked the question asked, "Well, don't you willingly pay more than what you have to?"
Oh,
And he
G,
didn't
pause,
answer the
pause.
No,
question.
I thought
Answer
she
this
said
question, G, too. Yes, yes, you can pay more taxes. She did say that. G, I want your thoughts too when you respond here on. It sounded like moderator may have been going after him with that, how she asked that.
Right, because you were talking about the previous question saying, well, there was no real meat to the question about homelessness, right? But then here, this is focused directly on Tom, and it was incisive, and it was basically, um, uh, trying to get him to flub up or whatever. Which I agree with you. So Trump was given the same question or similar question in 2016, saying you pay little taxes. And he goes, and this is where Trump won a lot of points because he was honest. He's like, and you remember, he goes, "Well, of course I do," and it turns to Hillary. So do all of her donors, and it's like we all follow the tax laws, and there she has been governing for 30 years, right? So if he had done an answer like that, then he would have come across sincere, and it would have actually dispelled because he's like, who pays more taxes? And everyone pays the least. Even Warren Buffett, who's a well-known Democrat, is always asked. I want to say every other year at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting, asked, why don't you pay more taxes when you keep arguing for higher taxes on the rich? And he goes, I'm just following the law, right? And
Yep.
people think he's a hypocrite for that. But anyways, I think if Tom had been sincere and said, I don't need to pay more taxes, then, he would have gotten away with it. But yeah, you're right. He did come across insincere, and I don't think it played in his favor.
Right. And for the record, for you Californians who may not know this, and for those of you who are watching in our grand national audience, California leads the nation in homelessness, and 24 billion has been spent on it during Gavin Newsom's reign, and a lot of it nobody knows where it went. So the quote grade the governor unquote moment is what Republicans, especially Hilton, are using to say Democrats are grading failure as success. And I think this is what helps the two Republicans in the race. I'm not talking about them individually, but this is what's helping the conservative slash Republican movement in California when they sit there and say, homelessness, Joe, did you run off Ted, the bum who's been there for a year and a half now from the corner? That's what they're thinking. So this doesn't hurt any of the candidates, but they have to toe the party line. The Republicans' reaction was what? It's a damn app. Steve Hilton responded that Newsom's homelessness record is, quote, of course an F, unquote, blasting the Democrats' grading as laughable. I agree, given tent cities and street conditions in all of the major California cities. And Republicans framed this exchange as proof that Democrats are out of touch with reality on homelessness and public disorder. Any disagreement with that thought process from let's be fair here. In this case, I think the Republicans were spot on with their comebacks. Annette.
They were. And can I give one personal antidote there?
Sure.
Because I think I understand this a little bit better after I had gone to, and I don't want to say the name of this organization, but to a meeting. And they were talking about a homeless facility that they were building. And in the bottom was going to be care for people that needed any sort of like emergency care. And they were going to live there for a year. And they had the entire setup and the people to help you get employed again and get healthy again. Okay. It sounded fantastic. Getting all private donors and also money from the state for this. So after the meeting is over, I'm like, wow, this sounds amazing. They're tackling it from every angle, from the mental health angle, from trying to keep these people a job, the care they're going to need right when you come in. It used to be like an old hospital, and they were going to have like emergency care facilities in the bottom. And so, because my brother has had a lot of experiences with homeless, and he's living with us, but I thought maybe this could really help him like get a job again and sort of get fixed up again, like more help than I can give him. I'm giving him a roof, but even more help. I went up to them and I said, I think this would be a great place for my brother. Like, and she said to me, well, he's going to need a referral. I'm like,
A referral?
a referral? And I'm like, are you going to get referrals from people on the street? Oh, this is for the homeless.
I know, yeah.
And she's like, well, we do it based on a referral. I said, well, you just did a presentation that said that you were going to take people like who were living in the tents outside of the Padres stadium, and and they need a referral. And I said, well, could I be his referral? Anyway, right then it fell apart for me. And I literally thought to myself, is it all just a scam? Because that's what I thought. I thought they were really trying to literally take the people from the street help them with their mental health crisis or whatever it was, keep them there for a year to help them get back on their feet and find a job and maybe get over their addiction and give them counseling and give them health care, which would be very expensive, but would be amazing. But you needed a referral. So I don't know. I'm not sure what I believed after that situation. I was like, this is very confusing to me. Um, so I will say, when it came to, they had a good point. There's a lot of money gone into it. The problem is terrible still. And so what can actually make it better? And I don't think that anybody had a really strong answer for that. I do think the problem is that complicated. And I think what's happening is, instead, to fill the void, people are trying to like come up with businesses that I guess help the homeless, but actually must make money somehow. I guess.
Part of that problem is a lot of those individuals are mentally ill, and a lot
I
of
know
them don't
Chad
wanna
said
don't
that. Chad said that.
yeah,
Mentally.
and a lot of them also refuse to stop taking the drugs to get help or drinking the alcohol to keep help, and Ronald Reagan killed sanitariums, and the nation followed, and until we figure out and realize the hard ugly truth, we need sanitarians back to put some of these individuals in, this problem's just going to get worse. And ironically, the referrals they probably are referring to coming from their own family, putting their own friends in, and they are, here you go, Joe. Yeah. And the fraud continues. Yeah. Okay, so it's not just the homelessness. The debate exposed how badly there are core state issues that are unresolved. Again, the homelessness is the biggest one that people are aware of, but it's housing, taxes, water, utilities, and public safety. So instead, what does Tom Steyer do? He blamed high gas prices on Trump and the Iran war rather than Sacramento's taxes and regulations. Candidates often, and the reason I say that is, okay, let's concede that the Iran war has raised taxes. They're still lower. I mean, raised gas prices. They're still lower than when Biden was in office. This is a problem that transcends Trump. But that's where you, Annette, you said it earlier. He came across as insincere or not believable. That comments like that is why he's too dense. But they just talked about California's biggest failures more than confronting them. And as you said, how do you resolve them? So, how, the question I have for you guys is, why didn't they go after Newsom? Give me a little bit more detail than they have to toe the party line. What are your thoughts on why didn't they specifically go after Newsom, Annette?
The Democrats, why they weren't able to really go
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Republicans
these
went after
the
him.
Republican, I mean, they did. They really did. I even thought they were still sort of gentle, but they had really excellent points. Why didn't they go after him beside the fact they wanted to toe the party line? I think it would obviously point to the massive failures. Like, it's so, what a cop out for Steyer to say, yeah, it's Trump and the war. When actually, then I don't know which one of the Republicans talked about the drilling that could be happening right here in California, and us getting the oil from wherever it is get it from, to, for Californians. It's just,
Right.
there's something about it that's so nonsensical for people and would probably just enrage them. So to really go after Newsom, they would have to like talk about all of his failures in the state, and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, we got to change. We can't go on like this." I mean, it would be just. I thought actually it was sort of blatantly obvious how badly it was going. I thought it was a really bad night for the Democrats overall. So it would just point to the failures and every single like topic that they brought up, and then where do they go from there?
Okay. I think when you say it's a bad night, I think for the Democrats, they've got a built-in base. So I think it was a bad night because none of them were able to stand out for the reasons you gave. Gee,
Yeah, I mean, I think they were playing it safe. So if you look at, we're talking about the polling, nobody's really broken out on the Democrat side. So they're looking for maybe the block of voters that they need are the Gavin Newsom voters, and maybe the ones that go, okay, he's not perfect, but he did a pretty good job. That's why we give him a B, right? Is you go, okay, well, you pretend to be open-minded and clear-sighted enough to say, here are the problems here, but you still like Gavin Newsom, and he did a fairly good job. So I think that's why they were trying to balance that, because they're trying to move those guys over into their column. That's why it's politics. I don't think they have really any clear policy to change anything in terms of that. And at that level, you don't have to. You just get into the office and enjoy the trappings of the office. I think that's the
Right.
way the Democrat Party is in this state.
Uh,
Can I just say one
I
more
don't.
thing really quickly, William? Just really
Sure.
quickly. None of them had any charisma. At least Katie Porter, in the earlier version of Katie Porter, even if she came off as angry, she was entertaining. But they were literally so boring. I mean, you have to have someone having a little bit of charisma to be just slightly elevated out there on the stage. That was really lacking.
Yeah. They were just
Yeah.
playing it
You
safe.
don't
I
like
think that's
me?
what it
I'm gonna
was.
beat you. Actually, I think they were playing it safe, but they were playing it safe because Newsom is part of the Pelosi machine. Look, whether we want to admit it or not, Democratic politics originates from San Francisco. This is the first time in many years we're not having a San Francisco tie tie-in, somebody who's tied to that community. And there's a bunch of no names, and they're all still hoping to possibly get Newsom's donation. I mean, endorsement and the money that comes with it. They can open the pipelines, Pelosi, Newsom, all those individuals. So they're not pissing him off because of that, which in and of itself shows the Democrats don't care about the people. It's about jockeying for position to be the next person to enjoy the trappings of the mansion in Sacramento. That's why I think they didn't do it, because there's too many question marks in the possibility that Newsom could endorse one of them, or even Nancy Pelosi or some big Democrat. They don't want to upset the car. They don't want to upset the leaders of the California Democrat Party that have deep pockets. That's, I think, why they did it. Tom Steyer, I think politically, Tom Steyer may be a brilliant businessman. Politically, he's mentally incapacitated in many ways. Annette, you wanted to say I see you.
Yeah, I just had a question for you guys. No, so just politically to be savvy about it, are they gonna have to, like, go in a closed door meeting and have to all get behind one person? Do they
That's gonna be a question. That's gonna be
oh,
a
sorry.
question we're talking about
I
here.
said okay, got it.
No, it's fine. How do the CAGOP, the California candidates, how does Chad take a knee Bianco and Steve Hilton take advantage of this? G.
Well, I think they're at an impasse, right? They tried to convince the Republican Party to go their way, and they didn't. So I'm not sure that they can. I think they're just going to stick to their lane and say, okay, we're going to keep attacking the Democrat. I don't think they're attacking each other necessarily, which I think is a good move, and let the Democrats devour themselves. I just don't see them being able to really do anything other than just focus on their campaign, focus on the issues.
I truly believe they can take advantage of this. They have to start hammering. Look, at the end of the day, you've lost faith in politicians, and that I've lost faith in politicians as well. I always take a step back. I try to take a perspective, or as I like to call it, look at the big picture, all angles. But I think the one thing all these politicians are lacking is telling the truth to the people. Steve Hilton going to blue districts. Look, not one of them wanted to sit there and tell the truth to Gavin Newsom because they're beholden to their party, not you. They homelessness. And then you just rattle off the rapes, the numbers. You point out to wherever you're at, how close the next homelessness is. Hey, the doorman, he's homeless right now. You play it up and you attack, attack, attack because you want to sit there and create a difference between you and the same old, same old. That's why I think Tom Steyer miserably failed. I'm the change candidate. I'm the change candidate. Hey, do you want to pay more taxes? Ooh! He's just, yeah. All right. So, any thoughts to my thoughts? Going straight to the people. I mean, am I wrong to look at good old politics and doing what you're supposed to do? Talk to the people, represent the people. None of those individuals have talked to the people. Even Chad Bianco, who I'm not supporting, he has at least gone out and talked to the people. I'll give him kudos on that. Steve Hilton has just run around in his little circles, so he needs to take the next step. Any thoughts on that before we move on to the candidate clashes?
No, I think you're exactly right, and I think maybe one thing to do is attack the Democratic frontrunner, not attack each other, but attack the
Who?
well, right now Steyer, right, and then just knock him down a couple points, and then if Porter gets up there, knock her down, and But like, nobody likes negative campaigning. It's just a fact of life that candidates have to do it. I I think they should stick to the issues, like you and I both said.
All right, G, I have to push back with a reality check because you're right. On paper, you put this negative campaigning. It's just so wrong. Yeah, poll after poll after poll, or focus group after focus group after focus group. It doesn't bother the people. So in reality, it doesn't bother the people. What they want you to believe, I'm such a good person, it bothers me. So the fact that nobody, and then you also have to separate the truth. Is it negative campaigning if you're telling them they support keeping your taxes high? If they support, removing, that Tom Steyer
No,
supports
I don't think
removing property.
that kind of negative campaigning is negative. I'm talking about yeah, okay, so the Swalwell thing was true, right? But if it wasn't true, some candidates actually do get dirty and make up lies. So that's the kind of thing that I think voters don't like.
Oh,
But I
gotcha.
agree
Well,
with
do
you.
they know?
Yeah,
Do they know? Do they know? Like, for example, Tom Steyer, oh, our gas prices are up because of Trump. To me, that's a negative because it's a flat out lie. But most people, when they hear negative, they think of the dirty politics. Yeah, Tom
right.
Steyer,
No,
he was
and
making love
absolutely.
to his beautiful
And
sneaker.
Annette and I have talked about this in terms of campaigns. Like, if you have an opponent who has like a very, very bad, like, okay, Swalwell. Let's talk about Swalwell. If that guy was the front runner and he was abusing, drugging, and essaying women, right? Like, people got to know that. Otherwise, he's going to do it in office, and
They
you
do
put a lot of
now.
people at risk, right? So there is a aspect of it, like, yes, you got to let people know who that person is because they're voting for that person, and if that person is evil, they need to know they're voting for an evil person. There are a lot of questions about Katie Porter right now, right? Like, and she's like, "Well, I apologized later that day," and she said thank you and forgave me. Like,
Sure she did.
okay, no, that's really who you are. You don't.
Mm.
That doesn't come out of you just randomly. You're not a nice person that comes out of you. I know I don't do it, and that doesn't do it. I know you don't do it. Well, like, that doesn't happen. So
William might do
that
it.
No, 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 dude, that's a
I
great
was
point
joking.
because yes, I will cross the line if I'm running for office. If I'm running against an opponent, hey, let's have a clean race. The moment they cross the line, your mama's on the table now.
Yeah, but that's
That's
what I'm
just
saying.
my thought
But
process.
you can't say it, right? You can't actually, like, I'm negative campaigning. People don't
Yeah,
like that, but they
exactly.
know it when they see it. But they don't
Right.
like it when you say, "Yeah, I'm negative camp." Okay, let's go back to 2016. Hillary in all the debates started really coming after Trump, right? She had the laundry list, she had everything memorized. People like that. Now Trump was basically playing defense, but had a lot of good zingers back, right? So it was that negative campaigning that solidified what we all pretty much thought of Hillary, like she's this mean,
Crooked Hillary.
vengeful
Well, I
person.
think with Trump is likable. When you
Yeah.
like Trump, you like Trump. He's up there. He does zinger. Yeah. Why? Because you picture yourself. That's me on stage, minus $7 billion.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Let's keep moving. Annette, did you have any final comments before we move on to the next section?
We move on.
All righty. So the night also featured attacks over biography, money, and past controversies. I did learn something. Tom Steyer was pressed over his billionaire status, which we all knew, but his past investments in a private prison company called Core Civic that runs ICE detention facilities, even as he now calls to put ICE in jail and abolish the agency. See, to me, that's more Democrat fodder. If I'm a Democrat, because that's true, I'm just running all over that and using that against him. Javier Becerra was grilled over his admission that he had heard. Well, first of all, before we go next one, let's stay kind of brief on this. Uh, what are your thoughts of a Democrat abolish ICE, jail ICE, etc.? Oh, by the way, oh no, don't. There's nothing to see there. I own the detention facilities that ICE puts crooks in. What are your thoughts when you learn something like that in there? Did you know that before the debate?
No, I didn't. And the thing is, he was so passionate about the ICE issue. That's really, I was like, wait, is he, is it one of those like mental games where like if you're really passionate about it, then I don't know. To me, he not only seemed insincere, I thought that he was very odd. I thought he was just an odd person, and I
He's a
thought
little weird. Comes off
he's stra
weird.
he's
Yeah.
really strange. So I'm like, and here he's like all passionate about that, and then he's got this hypocrisy. So the insincerity, the hypocrisy, and the fact that he's just an oddball. I don't know about him. That's it.
Gee, when you did you know that before the debate? And
I
what are
did
your
not,
thoughts?
and that just makes me think if he becomes governor, I really don't think he would do anything against ICE. It's just all talk, and
Yeah,
like you guys said, it's insincere.
I don't think he will become governor because of issues like that.
No, I
So
don't think
Javier Becerra was grilled over his admission that he had heard, quote, rumors, unquote, about Eric Swalwell's alleged sexual misconduct before multiple women came forward, thus raising questions about the Democratic insiders, what they knew and when. Honestly, those are
I wanna
rumors. I mean, I look at that and I go, rumors? That's like you saying, "Oh, MLK's black? Oh, I didn't know that." Really? You know? Oh, oh, Trump is president? Oh, well, blow me down. I did not know that. It's like, come on. Only a moron did not know that. Annette, you want to jump in? I can tell.
Yes, I wanna jump in because I thought you were gonna say what I was gonna say. I wanted to defend him on that. You can't.
Defend him?
Yes, because
The floor is
think about it,
yours.
William. No, think about it, William. In his right, maybe all those rumors were circulating, but you can't know. You can't be a part of a rumor like that. That's terrible. That's in terrible form. I'm not surprised at all. If I heard a rumor like that that I didn't know for a fact, which means I was not in the room, but I heard about it, I would not speak about it. I never would. That's just terrible. That's just there. It's rumors. It's the rumor mill, and I think it's terrible for politics. It's totally mean spirited. And how could he know for sure? So he'd be perpetuating gossip.
Yet he's accused Trump of pedophilia and raping women.
Wait, I, okay, but aren't we talking about why he did?
No, I'm saying he has. So, yeah.
Well, that same. I'm sorry, Mister.
Professor X, Xavier Becerra, yes.
He when did he I'm sorry, was he you mean the night of the debate? He
No,
didn't
no,
mention that.
no. In general, in the past, he's made criticisms of others and not associated
You
with his
think
party.
you should have accused him, you think, but, he
Oh,
didn't
look,
know.
look, here's my belief. If you know somebody's harming a woman, oh hell yeah, you should step up.
But he
I
didn't
would
know for
I
sure.
would be one of the Republicans voting to make that sex uh slush fund public. Gee, your thoughts.
A lot of Democrats knew what Swalwell was doing,
How could they
and
know though, G? How could they know?
So let me give you this
I think
example of
they
that.
know because it came out the week before the debate, and literally the day after, I think it was, the California GOP decided not to endorse either candidate. The timing of it, they knew for a long time. I totally believe they knew for a long time. This wasn't just like some insider who just kind of came out on the TV and said, "This is what's happening," but it just broke out of nowhere. So I would say at least a month or two, if not longer, and they had the goods on him, right? And they basically, I think some might have threatened him in the past, like, this is how you're going to operate under our thing, or we're going to release this. And then at some
Correct.
point, they looked at the field and said, look, we're in danger of having two Republicans be the only candidates in the general. So we need to knock down somebody. And I think they decided to knock down Swalwell. And I don't know who,
Yikes.
but
So
I won't say that Javier Becerra knew, but I think the rumors are that he did know because he's connected, right? He's pretty high up there in the California state government. So I don't know that he knew, but a lot of people knew, and they just let it. The party of Me Too, they just let it happen.
there was a reporter, a leftist reporter, when he was on city council said, "We all knew this was happening. When we tried to bring it up, we would be blocked from bringing it up." As G said, that's another scenario. So when I first got into politics in 2015, officially, meaning I started getting involved in being a grassroots activist, I was told about Kamala Harris. I go, "Seriously?" He goes, "It's like the biggest open secret in California." Believe it or not, politics is not big circles. So when you have a X amount of congressional representatives from California. The Democrats, they all get together in DC at events. for business of California or etc. They're all funded from certain key players. Nancy Pelosi was funding Swalwell. If this reporter was saying that he tried to report on this back when he was a city councilman, she had to know it. So it's one of those deductions based off Fang Fang. There's Fang Fang. This guy had a past. In fact, a report came out, and I don't have any names, so take this with a grain of salt. But that some political peers have claimed that many within the Democratic Party and media were aware of his behavior long before the public reports. Now, the reporter did come out and say this, and I can't remember what podcast I was listening to. Oh, it was the Fox News guy who used to work at ESPN, who is now at Fox. I forget his name. Will Cain. He was on with Will Cain, and Will Cain was kind of dubious, not in believing him, but in believing that he really pushed hard to expose it because he was a hardcore leftist. So political pundits like Scott Jennings have argued that Democrats and media figures all knew but protected him because of he was their pit bull. I also believe they knew, but that pit bull, he's has one job: to attack. That pit bull wants to move on up the chain. Nah, you're best as a pit bull. So when they saw this crowded race, they saw all the skeletons. You've gone as far as you can go. I'm going to stay in the race, and they went and destroyed him. Is what they do. He has no
Well,
job. He has no income now. They have completely eviscerated, and he could be facing rape charges. And his best friend, Ruben Gallego, as a man, I can tell you, there's always somebody who knows the secret of a mistress. There's always that somebody, because you're going to need help with covering for you. So Ruben Gallego playing I didn't know is unbelievable.
The reporter asking that guy in the video, that other guy, that kind of looks like you. He's like, no, no.
I didn't know what we were going to say. That's funny.
Well, I just had a question.
Just gonna
I had a
call like
question.
this.
Because we don't know who knew, but I know who did know. Eric knew. He knew what he was doing. So why would he run if he'd been up to that kind of behavior?
He was Nancy
Why?
Pelosi's was his mentor. He was as the gangsters would
But
say, he was
but
a
still
made man.
but still, but okay, but William, still, if somebody he was crowned and then she must have known then maybe she knew. I mean, they didn't protect him then?
Look at everything they protected Obama, his Reverend Wright stuff, some of his past dealings. The Democrat had the mainstream media on their side.
I
Notice how
understand
quickly the
that.
media turned on them. Once the media is given the word, it's okay to take this guy down, then all the news comes out.
She's
That's
just
that's
sounds
why.
so awful,
The
all of
truth
it.
can be ugly. Now, Katie Porter, let's move on here. Katie Porter herself repeatedly attacked Steyer over his private prison and ICE link investments on the trail, framing him as a corporate hypocrite. And those tensions hung over the stage. I did notice in watching it, I'm like, oh, she's going after Steyer. And I think she went after Steyer because he's the front runner, has 100 million. And if I think oh, no, that's Betty Yee who endorsed Steyer. But Steyer can be a funnel of money to one of those Democrats. So him leaving the race can help the party overall. But I think she sees the front runner in him, so she's going after him. And I think she loathes his hypocrisy. She's one of these Democrats that truly believes she's a warrior without looking in the mirror, who will rationalize throwing hot water with potatoes in it at her husband, has rationalized already, as we saw on stage, her yelling at her intern or whoever that was. She will rationalize her giving him a B minus. She's a woman who will rationalize all her own failings away, but deep down believes that Steyer's a bad guy. So I think that's why she did it. Am I looking at it too deeply there, Annette?
No, right. I think that she's the kind of person who rationalizes that kind of behavior. And by the way, she's lost some weight.
Yeah, I noticed that too. You go, girl. You go, girl. Well, you know what though? I'm sorry. When you're single, that tends to happen. She cannot lose that. Gee, your thoughts on Katie Porter?
Just in
Attacking
general,
Steyer.
I don't want to say them.
No, attacking Tom Steyer and
No,
Washington.
I get it. No, I think she has to go after the front runner, and she's
Yeah.
trying to peel off those percentages. So, in the end, if they're not going to get into the top two, it won't matter. But the question is, can she peel enough off to be in the top two? So, but yeah, her angle is, of course, she can attack the Republicans, but which one? I think Chad and Steve are pretty much maybe 2% percentage points off, so not too much.
All right.
But I
All
think
right.
I think the easy one is to attack the wealthy billionaire. I think that
Right.
was the
I
easy.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. So give me 10 seconds on Matt Mahan trying to cut through the noise by leaning on his San Jose mayor record. And I think, Annette, you gave us the best answer in terms of he tried, but then got the legs cut out from under him. But he did try to sell himself as a practical reformer on homelessness and public safety, pointing to his responsibility to shelter, push, and arguing homelessness should not be a choice. I myself can't get over the fact that we need change or we have to fix things. Oh, Newsom all gets to be. He's a good guy, you know. And then we've improved homelessness and the unemployment rate. And that your response was was the best response. So you can repeat that and give us your take.
Well, I don't know if I can totally repeat it because I might have been, very, very good in that moment. But no, he was saying that Governor Newsom did a okay job, and then like Californians deserve better. That was exactly the way he said it. Californians deserve. I'm like, wow. He's basically saying Governor Newsom didn't do a good job. He did a shoddy job. He also was talking about how he did address the crisis of homeownership, saying that he built a lot of new homes, and trying to get more housing. And then, of course, that got refuted by Steve Hilton. So I don't know what he's doing in San Jose. I'm not. He seems to think he has one record, and Steve Hilton seems to think he's got a different record altogether. So I just know that he's supported by the tech people up there, and I'm sure that is. And another thing that he lacks greatly is that charismatic way of making you believe that he cares about you. I mean, he seemed to me extremely rehearsed, trying to be calm, trying to
Right,
say the right
right. No,
thing.
you're
Didn't
right.
he seem very
I
rehearsed
think they
his
were all
response?
rehearsed. I think he's still so
Yeah,
new.
but
He's more casual about it, and he's actually governed, meaning you could tell he's actually been involved in some of the governing. That's how you can easily be like he was with rattling off what he's done. But you're right, a lot of it is memorized. Gee, quick thoughts on Mahan.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was the only
Gee,
Democrat who
Matt Mahan. Just
the guy from San Jose, he was the only he was the only Democrat that actually seemed to have some kind of a solution, even though I don't agree with them, for the people, right? And like I talked about the gas tax earlier and some ideas about housing, but uh I I I think he was the only one that came across believable.
oh,
But again, he's a socialist. So in my mind, I would never vote for him. But if any free thinking California actually thought, well, maybe these far left policies are not working, but you don't want to vote Republican, then you would probably vote for this guy because he, like you said, seemed rehearsed, but he seemed normal to
yes,
some
yes, he did
degree.
come across. All right,
Yeah, he just seemed like a
you
regular
know,
guy.
Annette, 10 seconds, go.
about that real quick, Jones. 1 second only. Do you remember the part when he answered about the taking a test if you're going to be a driver in English proficiency?
Right.
And then he kept on. I felt like he never answered that question. He kept on talking about the DMV. I'm like, what is
What he
he?
was saying is,
What
he
is
was
his
saying
answer here?
it was the DMV's concern to be able to go through that process of the English speaking. Uh, Chad Bianco was really rough, but he's correct. That cop stopping the guy had to do with him missing a sign, and the cop, do you understand what you're looking at? And Professor Exter, Xavier Becerra, tried to make it a race thing. And what Mahan
Mm,
was doing is saying this isn't none of that. It's the DMV's job to handle this type of stuff. He shouldn't. What he was trying to say without saying it, so he wouldn't look bad. He was trying to
mhm.
say it's the DMV's job to issue these licenses, so they're the ones who need to be concerned with this, not the cop. When the reality is, the cop stops him. He stops him for a reason. In this case, it was because he probably didn't. He missed a sign. Didn't understand it. Hey, do you know what the hell you're looking at? That's what he was trying to say there. And he did a
Okay.
poor job in Obviously, you
Yeah,
did a poor job if you didn't understand it, but
I
I
didn't.
got what he was trying to understand. Gee, looked like you wanted to say something.
No, that I agree.
All right, let's get. We're right about 5 minutes before the hour mark. Let's have some quick answers here before we close this out. Is this race really about fixing California's problems or about relitigating Trump while one party rule in Sacramento stays the same? Gee,
It's about just getting the job, and it's a one-party state. And yeah, it's all about attack Trump and who can stand up to Trump. I think that's how you win this race in California. That's the state, unfortunately.
Annette,
Yeah, because that's all they've got. Because actually, that's the only thing that they can actually point to that they can criticize because the state is in a horrible place. So it's easy. It's nice to distract it.
I'm with you, Annette. I think this is all about using Trump as a straw man to look over here, not over there where the mess is truly at. And that is all they have. And to me, it's an easy problem to overcome. But you got to campaign like old style politician and go to the people for your
Yep.
message. But that's what this race is. It's not about fixing California's problems, as she said. It's about who's going to enjoy the drapes and the parties next in line in a one party rule state. Did either Republican on stage actually pull ahead or capitalize on the moment, or did both miss an opportunity? Gee, start with you.
I think Steve Hilton had a little more personality, had some humorous moments. They're not barn busting, laughable moments, but Chad, I think, came across as a serious conservative. And I think maybe that did a lot to dispel the whole kneeling issue that happened 5 years ago. I don't think enough was done by either candidate to pull ahead. So I think between them, they're going to stay exactly where they're at.
I agree, Annette.
Well, I wanted to say this. I ended up really liking Chad. That I was surprised by how much I liked him. I thought he gave very concrete answers in complete sentences, complete thoughts. He was very coherent. So I thought he did a really excellent job. I'm not saying I don't like Steve Hilton. I think if you remember from a previous show, he been the person I would have voted for in the sense that I'd met him and I really like him and I find him to be a warm person, as G said, engaging and funny and gregarious and all those wonderful qualities. But I liked Chad's answers. I'm like, wow, he's just giving it to you straight. And when people give it to you straight, I feel like I can trust them. The only thing that he said that I didn't like was when he said that he wouldn't back up. Well, then he sort of like he gave it, he said, well, if because I think it's going to be both of us, we're going to rise to the top. So I'm not going to support the other candidate. But I sort of thought
Right.
that was like a little bit that I was like, oh, I don't like that. That feels mean. And I didn't like how that came off. That was the only thing
So,
where he lost a
no, you're
point for
right,
me.
you're right. So, Chad Bianco hates Steve Hilton. So I
Oh, I
found it
didn't know that.
disgusting as a Republican. As a Republican, I found that disgusting. That was his out not to answer. Oh, I'm not gonna answer because we're both gonna be in there. That's him not wanting to answer that
Does he
question.
hate him really?
From what I've read and the body language he talks about him, it seems like that way to me. Also, I thought he was terrible answering, not because I didn't like the answers, because he's raw. He's just new to politics, and there's a way to answer these questions, and he failed to do that properly. Came across a
Ah,
bit his racism. I agree with him 100%. I got what he was trying to say, but he didn't come across effectively with what he was trying to say. We are tired of racism, but there was a better way to say it. He says, look, this is a great example of why we're sick and tired of racism. This man was obviously stopped because he couldn't read a sign. We've had over 2 dozen people murdered on the streets because people who didn't know how to read the signs on the road. And that's what we're trying to stop. So there was a better way to go towards the people because you're saying we've had people murdered. You use the word murdered because in my eyes, that's what they are. When you're giving a license, it's like giving a gun at these people. So there was ways, and he failed to do that.
mm,
Uh, Off topic, he'll never sway me because he's taken E Bianco. His actions have proven who and what he is. That doesn't mean I love Steve Hilton, but from an election standpoint or debate standpoint, Steve Hilton came across much more clearly, had a couple more jabs. I don't think either one of them did anything to grow their base. But I think in that moment, Hilton may have grown with more moderates in terms of looking at him. I think Chad Bianco is now openly courting the far left vote by saying, "Hey, Biden's illegals, I will sit there and make them legal as well." You know, an opportunist. He bent the knee instead of standing up for his conservative values. Because my issue isn't necessarily him bending the knee; it's him bending the knee wearing a law enforcement uniform when you're supposed to be neutral and represent all people. So my issues tend to be a little bit more complicated, but neither one of them did anything to pull ahead. But I agree with G. He came off a bit more moderate, more. He just came off a bit better. Hilton did, but that's a product of Bianco. Not that's his first big debate, and his handler should have prepared him better. But he also strikes me as a man who doesn't want to be told what to do and how to do it. So honestly, and
I
that's
think I
Trump.
like him.
But Trump has the charisma. Bianco doesn't. Okay, so with a crowded Democratic field in the top tier system, the top two system, is there a real chance for two California? Is there a chance for Bianco and Hilton to make it through and get on the November ballot? Uh, and this doesn't have to pertain to the debate as much as if you see it happening, how and why, or how do you think it can happen? Or that's just all talk by the media. There's going to be a Democrat in there. Let's start with you, G.
I think that's just Republican hopium in my mind.
I like that hopium.
I just don't see it. I mean, the Democrats are going to consolidate. I think they're going to, in my mind, I think they're going to take out Steyer, then take out Porter, and then Javier Becerra is going to be their candidate. I think that's their hope and goal. Could be wrong.
Annette.
Whoa. I mean, I didn't see that coming, G. Because I don't think he performed well, and I didn't feel like he could
Who
or
performed well? Who didn't perform well?
Pilar. Like, I didn't feel like he performed well at all. I was, like, waiting for him. I was, like, excited to sort of get to know him, and I didn't feel like got to know anything
Boring.
about it. What?
Boring. He was
He was
boring.
really
Yeah, he was
Javier
boring.
was
Yeah.
boring.
so anyway, that's
But
really
I
interesting
just
you
feel
say
like
that.
they have more
Out of
Katie
this whole
Porter videos ready to drop in my mind
No, so you're saying out of all of them would get behind him over Matt?
because he's more establishment. Let me just give my little more of my thinking. I think because he's more establishment and that he's part of Gavin Newsom's cadre, even though Swalwell was the appointed child or whatnot. I think then they're looking at this going, maybe it's Xavier, and they got to figure out what dirt to bring up on Steyer and Porter. And I think that dirt is yet to come.
Well, I think he's gonna
I agree
do
with
you agree with
G.
Steve?
Oh,
No,
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I
Annette.
think they're
Go
gonna
ahead.
get behind
Yeah, but
I
go
think
ahead.
they're
Go
gonna get
ahead.
behind
Go
Matt
ahead.
and the mayor. That's what I think. I think they're gonna consolidate against and get behind Matt the mayor. Okay, so and I wanna know you think, William.
I agree with G. They're going to
Oh,
consolidate.
they're
There
gonna
will not be
consolidate.
two
Yeah.
Republicans. They will consolidate. Steyer has the money to stay in, and Steyer may say, "Screw you guys." And let's be honest, they're all on the primary ballot. So they've got to do consolidate and then get the word out not to vote for this candidate that has dropped out. I think this is to add on to what G is saying and to answer the question once again. They're not going to have two Republicans, and Hilton's already starting to get a lead, and that's because the MAGA vote will consolidate behind Trump, and Hilton can play the moderate, whereas Hilton can play the moderate, keep the base he has, and grow with moderates. Whereas Bianco will start to shed conservatives the more they realize, hey, oh, that's the guy who took a knee, and they realize, oh, he's saying that he's going to make Trump's illegal, or make Biden's legals permanently legal. He's going to lose some of those voters. So I think you're going to see a greater disparity begin to happen. But I think Javier Becerra is the safest establishment
Mm.
vote they can control. Katie Porter, who knows what else is out there, but she's a mean girl. Her emotions cost her a lot. And when you have an uncontrollable beast out there, that's Katie Porter. And that has consequences as governor downstream or even upstream. Because if she does something diabolical and makes the party look bad, they can lose on the next referendum, loses. So there's a lot of loss there. Tom Steyer, as I said, they don't care for him in the party. Mahan, he's vanilla. And what is he? What's his worst trait? What is Mahan's worst trait?
I don't know.
He's a white
Oh,
middle-aged
oh,
man.
mm.
Yeah. So the feminazis in there aren't going to like that. The black leadership is not going to like that, which then by default, who am I leaving
No,
out
you
that I
just
haven't
mentioned
mentioned?
everybody.
Yeah. So that by default leaves the one brown man in there, Javier Becerra. Whether he's bland or not, that's who they're going to consolidate. I'm saying this is a Latino who looks at it from their perspective, the identity politic perspective. At the end of the day, he works for the identity cast and he works for the establishment cast. So by default, he's the guy they will prop up and drag towards that finish line, in my opinion. Final thoughts on my opinion or anything else with the debate before we close
The only
the
thought
show
is
out?
that was
Because
my opinion. You just
oh,
rephrased it. I'm just kidding.
I actually did think of another thing I wanted to add, that was an interesting.
go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead, white woman.
versus Steve Hilton and Chad. You guys remember when they were talking about cell phones? And Chad said, "This it's up to the parents." And Steve Hilton said,
Oh, that's right. The
I'm sorry,
social media.
and
Yeah.
social media. I'm sorry, not cell phones, social media. I apologize. And then Steve Hilton said, "Well, he would do a ban." And I was surprised by that. I just thought that I preferred the answer that I'm gonna leave it up to the parents. I mean,
I used to be like that,
mhm,
Annette, especially with cannabis, but we are now seeing studies. This current the Gen Xers, what's the latest,
whatever
whatever they
generation,
call it,
yes.
is the
iGen, I
yeah,
think.
is the dumbest generation ever because of technology. You see, here's the basic problem, and I've told you guys this before. When I prepare, I only got 2 topics out tonight because I actually read through every single line I read through. Back to AI, redirect the question, get more info. People don't use AI that way. They don't read it, they don't study it, they memorize it and they skim it, so they don't hold any retention. We're seeing the addiction process. We're seeing the white brain or something. It does something to the brain. So these are young developmental kids. So it's like liquor or your driver's license. Yes, at this age is when you can go on. That is a radical change that Americans are not accustomed to. But who is leading the charge without leading the charge? But their actions show us that should be happening. The social media founders, the high executives. When in interviews, I don't let my kids have social media or be on social media, or they're extremely limited. So I'm okay with that for the betterment of these kids long term. On paper, hey, that's great. Parents should have the choice. But what do parents really use this technology for with young kids? Be honest. What do parents use this technology?
It's their babysitter.
Thank you.
But we don't tell parents what to feed their kids. That's
We
amazing.
are now. Trump just sat there and said, you on those EBT cards, you can't get this, this, and this. You're right, but that's different. That's different. A fat kid is not going to become mentally incapacitated to compete with other kids at his same level as he grows older. And you can get skinnier once your brain gets whitewashed or you don't have the retention
There's
capacity.
no going back.
Yeah, the important structures that your brain learns and it becomes part of you as you grow up. Yes, you lose that, and it's some of it won't come back. So it's different. It's like, well, let's
Okay.
just legalize all drugs. What I'm saying is, life's not fair. You have to look at everything individually. And yes, maybe will come a point where, dear God, woman, you spit out 6 fat Alberts. Maybe we should sit there and stop. Maybe we'll come to that. I don't want to come to that. But when it comes to these computers and all that, I see it firsthand. I saw it firsthand with the kids who worked for me, who lived it. And I told you guys this story. These are young men in their late 20s. And I'm like, oh my God, you've never had a date with a woman since I'm here. It's like I've never heard we're losing our social skills. We're losing our ability to socially interact. Hate is thriving. It's easy to go, hey, inward, hey, honky redneck behind that computer when you're a person. Hey, what's happening? Yeah, I kind of disagree with this. You disagree with that, but not, so I don't want to say I'm for it 100%, but I'm strongly leaning that way. And I'm sorry, guys. Any final comments before I close it out about that? Okay. So, Gee, did I really regurgitate what you said?
In terms of,
Yes. Here we are.
yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at my notes. All right. Okay, guys. California's problems are no longer abstract. They are now directly shaping the governor's race. The jungle primary system and Democratic fragmentation could determine whether the state gets a real contest or a party political surprise. Let's hope it's a surprise named Steve Hilton. Or hell, I don't like him. I despise him, but I'll take Chad Bianco. So the race is not just about who has the best message. It is about who survives the system. By the time the ballots are counted, the bigger story may be which party failed to protect itself. And yes, I'm specifically referring to the Democratic Party. That's a wrap for this Fired Up California. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you're following Grumblings Media on YouTube and Rumble so you don't miss out on the next go around. I'm William Del Pilar, your conservative Latino, and for my panel, Ms. Annette Ross and the handsome G-Man. Thanks for stepping out to the battlefield with us. We are out. Hey, everybody, this is William Del Pilar, founder of Grumblings Media, and I want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our all-volunteer efforts at Grumblings Media, smash the subscribe button right here. 100% free, and please consume and share our great content. Click either one of these two boxes for more of our work.